Since the beginning, Halo was about Master Chief and Cortana, partners protecting humanity. But that is now a distant memory. Humanity is fighting for survival. The Banished have risen, defeated our heroes, and taken control of the mysterious Zeta Halo. We need a savior. We need hope. We need Spartan 117, Master Chief.
Welcome back, coders, to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at that Halo Infinite campaign overview trailer that dropped a couple days ago. The reason for this is because I have been combing through this footage inch by inch, second by second, looking for any details that I could possibly break down and kind of decipher to see if there's any secrets hidden that were shown in there. So today I've got a bunch of screenshots that we're going to be taking a look at together, as well as some footage just to kind of get an idea of what is hidden within this wonderful campaign overview, and were we shown a lot of the game or just a tiny little tidbit. Anyway, strap in, buckle up, let's take a look. Okay, starting off, we have our first screenshot that I found, and I just wanted to go ahead and stop it here specifically because there's a lot of cool little details going on even in this short screenshot. So first things I wanted to do was obviously take your attention over to this FOB, which is called a forward operating base. There have been a lot of talk about what these are or how these are going to play into the game. One thing I can say for certain is that these are going to be more side objectives, I believe, rather than the main campaign objectives. So when you take a look, we're going to go ahead and zoom in here. You look right here and you can see that this base is actually built up to be pretty well defended. You got big walls with, it looks like, interiors here. There's a lot of really mechanical parts. I love the glow of the red that they tend to do with the Banished. It really has an awesome look to it. But more interesting than that is that this isn't the only thing we can see when we first dive into it. First of all, you can see up here that there's this slight structure. It's this triangle type structure. Now we're going to see this repeated a bunch of different times throughout this video, and this is the kind of indicator that we're looking at one map versus the other, because I believe what we saw in this campaign footage was actually two different sections of the Halo ring, not just one. However, the second section has been shown before, or potentially the first section has been shown before, and I think this is newer stuff. So this bridge, this kind of triangle section, is going to be a bridge that kind of branches across the map, connecting two different areas. And so I still think we're in one biome, and there's going to be multiple, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But over here you can kind of see down right over his right shoulder that there's some sort of interesting thing here. I think this is some sort of fusion coil or something like that, indicating there might be something either being held captive over here or another little small base. There should be lots of little scattered bases, things to kind of run into that aren't gonna distract you too much. There's also some sort of ridge line here that we can go through in between these two giant mountains, which probably leads to the second half of the map. And we're gonna see that in just a second. So let's go to our second photo. That's kind of everything I found in this little section, but let me know in the comments if you see anything that I'm missing here. So this is that FOB, that forward operating base, but just from the other angle. And the reason why I like to show this one is because I believe what we're doing is we're looking at this shot, but just from two different angles. So we're looking at it from another angle where now we can see this really cool mountain pass right here, where there is obviously some sort of bridge connecting it. I believe there's something up here, up on the top. There's a little glint there. Something that I am seeing a lot in this is just little hints that there's more just around the horizon, something to look at. We got some sort of like satellite dish, which is like a lead up into this FOB, but you could just see the amount of effort that went into just the level of detail on all of these different structures and stuff like that. These giant things that have ground into the earth. The Banished are here to take over. They're not here to be kind or anything like that. And they definitely kind of indicate that with their haphazard painting skills and all these other details and the glow of their red. We can also see just kind of like over here, I think anytime you're seeing these hexagonal things jut out, they kind of catch your eye, and they're doing that very intentionally. I'll talk about this a little bit later with kind of like the game design breakdown of certain areas, but I think this is a good thing. Obviously, this is the main focus of this screenshot, so nothing else to really look at, except you can see there's another little pathway here. So there's multiple ways in. So if we kind of compare this into this, we can see we're just on the other side of this base. And so we're coming at it from kind of, I believe, back over in this area. That's where the camera is. And so this might be over on our left-hand side when we're in this shot. So we might be flying actually through this little section right here. So interesting to look at there. Let's go on to the next one here. So here we see our first chance at like this giant monolithic kind of obelisk feature, and this looks like the central goal of whatever this mission is. Now, we just talked about the FOB. The FOB, the forward operating base, is huge, and there's a ton to do there, but I can tell you right here that this looks a lot more attractive, something that's going to make me and draw me into it. So I bet you that this is where the actual story kind of takes place, and that leads me kind of to my breakdown of impressions of what this game is going to be structured like. Now, I have heard a couple things around the internet kind of suggesting that there might be some Far Cry-like elements, and while I think there is some gameplay mechanics that may be shared between those two, I don't think it's in the way that that has been spread. So I fully do not expect Halo Infinite to be one cohesive open world that you just go around and unlock different pieces. Instead, it's going to have a very central narrative with a lot of optional objectives. Now, how these optional objectives play into the main narrative is still yet to be seen. And that's going to be the interesting part that I keep coming back to and wondering how they're going to implement in an effective way so that you don't get too distracted where you take your eye off the narrative. Is this something that's going to ramp down as the game goes on? Is this something that's kind of only there to kind of introduce you to the world and get you a feel for kind of the lore? If that's the way, it's an interesting and effective method. So right here, we're just talking about this giant monolithic obelisk, but there's a ton more information on this screen here than we've gotten before. First of all, let's just take a look and appreciate how this obelisk is protected. Right here, you can see we've got a little bit of these triangle-like features, so that's another thing to keep an eye on. But right here, there's this giant cavernous, like almost moat around it. So when we get here, it's going to be a trick to get to the actual base of the obelisk, which is where I think you have to be. On top of that, we see up here, we actually have this like nice vantage point. This vantage point is going to be a great place where you can kind of look down and see all of the different like directions and approaches you can make. I think that's a really good idea anytime you're designing stuff like this. Then we also have this interesting structure right here. Now, I have a theory that this is actually just some sort of signed thing to indicate you can get into this mountain and go through this way. And that's why we see some of these triangles on the other side. Now, it could be through this little cavern, like this little area right here, but it's kind of hard to tell. We also see a giant guardian was taken down, which is insane, because if you faced them in 5, you know these things are no fucking joke. So they're gonna really take some things. We also see another forward operating base or some sort of base over here, which looks like the kind of lead up to how you get into there. So there may be multiple approaches, and I think it's really cool. Let's just also just take a moment to appreciate the impressive lighting here. Love it. Absolutely love it. Moving on, I just wanted to show this one because of the really attractiveness of this shot, right? This is the true test of how good this game is going to look. I think this has been shown for a long time, but I'm happy that they're finally getting a chance to get the recognition here. These birds are way more detailed than they have any business being. There's no gameplay mechanic that's associated with them most likely, and everything like that. On top of that, the level of incidental detail on the ground and stuff like that, and the tessellation that's being shown is just spectacular. I love the atmospherics of the clouds and how that interacts with the ring. We even see this flock of more of these birds flying, and even these ones are extremely high detailed. We have extremely good draw distance off of the distance, and just in general, it's an intriguing place to think. I also took a look up here, and I just wanted to point this out briefly. I don't know what's up there, but I do think that it's interesting that this is not a hexagonal piece. This is some sort of additional thing. Whether or not that's some sort of launching point or what, I don't know. But let's keep an eye out for different things like that as we continue through here. Cool. Next, this is a great shot of the weapon. Since this central mission of what we have to do is getting the weapon and finding out what happened to Cortana is what it seems to be, the weapon is going to be a key factor into here. Now we can see this additional connection here. We talk about this a lot. We'll talk about this a lot, is this bridge, this weird floating bridge that continues out here. So when we zoom in, you can see the structure is very, very unique and specific. When we start to see these triangle-like structures, I think that's an indicator that we're getting close to something of importance there. There's also a really small touch that we didn't see before. I didn't see before, but right here we got these rings. And later in the shots, I'll show you another spot where we see those rings. I'm not sure their significance at this point, but I love the idea that there's some sort of religious significance there, that maybe there's some sort of ancient history on these rings that we're just not fully grasping, and that's where we're going to get more lore impressions. We also have this nice structure. I'm not sure what this is implying, but you can see almost that there's like this drag mark or burn mark, and there's a lot of stuff that's been like that when anywhere the Banished have been. So I keep an eye on that as we continue through here. This is our first sign of a couple cool little details that I noticed here. First of all, we see more of these triangle kind of forms. I wonder if these are related. We also see up here another obelisk type monolith, but it's kind of smaller. It's kind of what we see in the multiplayer maps where it shoots up as they accomplish certain things. Maybe we see the weapon here or something like that. Maybe it's just where we get a piece of information that has to carry us to the next mission. I'm not 100% sure, but it is nice touches to see these additional details there. The other thing I wanted to point out in this screenshot specifically that I thought was kind of cool or interesting is that there's a potential chance that we're seeing the possibility of different biomes here. Now it's hard to tell because there are areas where there's burnt and it could be ash, but it does appear to be some sort of snow shader of some kind on this mountain. I will say I will take that with a slight grain of salt just because of the fact that in other shots it makes it a little less apparent. So I wanted to just kind of point that out just in case I'm right. Hopefully I am. I do believe there's going to be at least like 3 to 4 biomes. We're talking desert, we're talking snow, we're talking this kind of spring and like woodland area and stuff like that. So we'll probably see additional biomes there. And I also think we're probably going to see very watery areas too. I'm interested to see if there's any sort of boat mechanics. That would be really cool, but that's kind of a pipe dream. So here's that other angle of the shot. It's just around the corner to the left of where we were just looking. The cool thing is he just called in a wasp, but right as we round this corner, we see another cool detail that I didn't want us to miss, which is this giant cave that just kind of invites us in. I don't know what's inside, but there's a number of very cool caves around the map, and they kind of seem like they're gonna hide some cool goodies. So I'm excited to see what's in there. Now we get a chance to look at another area. I don't believe that this is connected to the other areas that we've been looking at so far. There's a couple indicators to tell me why that's different. First of all, a lot more green in this area. This is the area that actually was shown in the first gameplay trailer that they ever showed. So if we take a look over to the right here, you can actually see that giant elevator with that upward gun that they have to take down, where they go and you first meet the Banished leader. So I definitely think back over here is where you're going to see those downed frigates and stuff like that, where you initially land from that gameplay trailer. How that kind of plays out in comparison to what we've seen already is definitely up in the air. But we also see these swampy areas, so that kind of connects me to that same area. I love the colors in here. It's very, very gorgeous. This area just like extremely attractive and looks very well designed. The other thing that I wanted to call out here was just the absolute fantasticness of like the different layers that we have that are running along this different thing. So verticality is a major factor. This FOB over here, or some sort of base over here, is going to play a major factor with that level of verticality and how you're going to accomplish that. Things like the grapple hook are really going to be unlocked in campaign in a way that we won't even be able to see them in multiplayer for a while. So I'm very excited to see where that all takes us, but just in general, this area is an extremely attractive area. We see a downed pelican, we see another banished site over here. There's a lot of just really intriguing areas. What is this? Like, why is it so square? Love that. What is this? We see another one of these pillars. This one's closed, so it's interesting to see that as well. And you can just see like every little bit has some sort of like little call out. Look at this kind of run down area. There's some sort of crashed area, which I believe is the frigates over there. Everything is intriguing, and I think they did a great job catching your eye every time they've designed an area. Here's another angle. I believe this is part of that first area that we were showing, not the swampy area. I'm going to kind of separate those two. One is swampier, a little bit more water-bound, and the other one is a lot drier and more arid. This is the more arid one, and the reason I say that is because we see the bridge right here. So this bridge, again, is going to be our connecting factor to tell us where we are in the game, and I think that's kind of a big indicator here. This looks like the forward operating base, that not the one with the tanks, but the one with the tank, where you get the tank and you're able to go a little ham. Actually, that might be wrong, but either way, I do think that this is a separate base, so it's something to keep an eye on. Now over here, you can see an indicator there's something else over here. It's hard to make out even with a 4K capture, so just say that there's some sort of secret over here that I'm definitely intrigued on learning about. Plus, God, that Wasp looks good. Look at those jet engines, just absolutely fabulous. One thing I will call out before we move a little bit on is that this has been the big difference here. So not only has the level of detail been pushed out and the pop-in has been fixed, that was my major problem. It seems the lighting is more consistent, and then what they've done is this interesting like level of detail texturing system that makes it look more like you're seeing grass in areas that are there's no way to render actual grass. So they've done a good job of making the graphics look even that much better. So here we see one of the forward operating bases that is a mine. Now this I thought initially that this was actually the one that they show later, that has tanks where you can go in there, but this is actually a completely different one. And what I love about this is actually that they're very different in how they're laid out and how you're going to attack them. So first off, there's no tanks for what you're doing. There's a central structure with this giant arm, and I think that's such a cool looking arm where they're moving different structures and things and equipment. Another cool touch is that these are part of the wheels on the Ravagers, I think is what they're called. I can't remember the name of that. The two-wheeled bikes, but they're making those at this place. So they're obviously designing weapons, and that's really cool. Leave a comment below for the name of those bikes. I can't believe I'm forgetting. They came in Halo 3 and I absolutely adore them. We also see some tanks that are being constructed, as well as another little cave. This is the other end of this cave system right here. This is the whole, like, in the side of a mountain they've built this facility, and I think that's just incredible. They have lots of enemies all around. You can see over here there's different like locks and stuff like that, and then even this structure is something you can get into. It does look like this is prepared for an aerial attack, so that's something to think about when you're approaching these different areas. Perhaps it's not smart just to fly in with a Wasp or call in all of your equipment right off the bat. Maybe you go in on foot, maybe you scout it out, maybe you snipe some things. It's going to be cool to see how these can be taken down. Now I'm going to take you back over to what I was talking about with the rings. Now I have no idea if these are connected, but these rings showed up earlier, like I showed you. I don't know what they are, except for some sort of relic of the past, and I'm very interested to see this. It does look like this is the other side of that same map from earlier, because this is that massive obelisk slash like monolithic thing that you're going to be going. Now this is Master Chief up in this Banshee with just a ton of really cool action going on. I'm just really excited to get over here, and you can see that's just a dropped off cliff right there, but from this angle you look like you can get into the structure, and I think that's going to be really interesting to kind of see play out. There does seem to be some sort of, and look at this. This is very interesting. You see this right here. There's some sort of glowing, emitting signal coming off of this ring. I'm curious if there's going to be something related to this, maybe a fast travel or a teleporting system. I'm just really interested on that. Okay, that's a cool touch that I was not aware of before. Now, here's just a fun little Easter egg that I thought I caught in the trailer. And you guys can tell me I'm crazy in the comments, but right here, this shot reminded me so much of Halo 2 and Halo 3 towards the end when they're on those ships as they're getting away. Just the lighting, the way that the kind of like harshness of that light cuts across and the deep shadow. It's just so good. And the reason why I think it's a callback is because the lead up to this shot is it pans up to Master Chief, and as it hits him, that light comes harsh down and activates right before the camera cuts to give you this really cool action shot. So I just definitely think that they called that out. So here's another great shot, just kind of indicating the monolithic structure. Again, same area, but we've seen it from 4 different angles and it just looks completely different. It's crazy how much variety they made it look like there was, when really they've only showed us just fractions of 2 areas. And really small fractions, I want to make it clear. Like this is a new operating base of some kind. This red glowing structure seems that they can turn either red or green. And my guess is that means that when they're in the Banished control, it's red, and when they're in your control, it's green. That's probably where you can go and recruit Marines, where you can call in different active points, things like that. That's what it kind of looks like. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out. Then over here, you got this nice bridge that was manufactured, and another bridge that looks like it's more intentional. And then you can get over to that gigantic monolithic structure. And of course, Master Chief just getting in his Banshee, looking at the sunset, sunrise, whatever it is. Gorgeous. Fucking gorgeous. Okay, so this is the other area far to the right on that second map that we've been talking about. We'll call it the swampy map, right? Where we have lots more water and just intricate detail. One thing I just adore is the amount of just incidental detail in this one shot. But you can see the entirety of that like preview area that they showed you in the last gameplay presentation is in just a small section. There's so much more over to the left and beyond that I think they're kind of holding back in a tremendous way, which is really exciting. So first off, let's take our attention up here. This is that one giant gun that they had to take down in that elevator where we first saw our buddy Craig. So Craig will be over here at the base coming down from on high, and then we got all kinds of different like raised platforms. We got some weird supply bases. We got Covenant over here. We have a giant down frigate that I believe you can go inside, which gets me really hyped. Like it looks like there's an entrance in there and an entrance in here, multiple entrances from different angles. Just very exciting. Additionally, I don't know why, but I had to call attention to the fact that the radar looks really clean in the single player. I'm hoping that they kind of clean that up in multiplayer. They really limited it in the last run, and I didn't think that was for the better, but that's my only thing. Overall, I think this is a really cool shot. The lighting, the kind of presentation, and I can imagine when you round this corner, because we saw in that other shot just to the left is an absolutely expansive area that we haven't even touched on. So very exciting to kind of see this area specifically play out. So let's go ahead and go on to the next one. So right here, there's only one thing I wanted to call attention to. First of all, man, the awesome level of detail on this. But then right here, we got another cave. This cave is really cool looking. It definitely looks like there's some sort of fog volume in there. So there's something hidden in this cave. I have to check it out. And again, the ring looming overhead is just fantastic. So this is the ransom keep. This is from, I believe the first area, but it's hard to tell because it's pretty green. So this is hard for me to figure out exactly which area this is part of, but I believe it's the first area that we've been talking about and not the swampy area. So the ransom keep is the one with the tanks. This is the one that gave everyone Far Cry vibes. And that's totally fair. I think that is kind of an interesting thing to think about. It's like, what if every area we just get to and we have 3 of these keeps to take down, and then we have a main objective or like something like that. That would be disappointing, but I don't think that's really what's happening. And I showed you a couple differences between the 2 keeps that we've gotten a chance to see in depth. And I think there's some interesting gameplay fundamental differences between it. But one thing that I will say that I can kind of confidently say is that each area is not going to have a ton of these. Where what I mean by that is you can see on one of the menu shots the amount of collectibles in the map. And when this one comes up, you see that there's about 6 of those collectibles just at this one location. So really, there's not going to be a whole lot of these main huge bases because it would take up a lot of the collectible space. So I think there's actually more like smaller exploratory areas and stuff like that. On top of that, this is that one giant FOB from before. So this is just another angle that we saw of that first area. It's crazy how little they've actually shown us. And I think that's still pretty cool because it leaves a lot to the imagination, and I don't want to get spoiled by this campaign. So hopefully they continue to show just bits and nothing incredibly detailed. So far, really liking what I'm seeing here. And I do think that this ransom keep seems like a fun addition to the gameplay formula. Reminds me of Halo CE. Okay, so this is another shot of the ransom keep, but it gives you some context about that giant ominous cave, and I believe that's that same mountain space that you can go through. So I'm just extremely curious about this. The other thing I wanted to call out is these birds. I'm curious, they seem to be circling, not so much flocking, but it's hard to tell from this angle. So if they are circling, is that a way to indicate that you can find some maybe like held up Marines that you can potentially free? That would be a cool way to do it. They've done that in a lot of games. Sea of Thieves does this. Wind Waker, or not, Breath of the Wild does this. A lot of really cool games that do this. But I do just think in general, this is giving me some, and I'm gonna say this with a grain of salt, some Breath of the Wild vibes, in the sense that you have these giant structures that you can climb up on top. You can see the survey of the land, and there's just a bunch of things that are going to catch your eye. What I hope they avoid is just marking a shit ton of things on your map. The map looks a lot better, but I don't want them to mark a shit ton of things. I want you to mark them, find them, organically find your fun. I think that's a big factor in how you can take it to the next level. And then our last one is the first shot of inside of a Banished base. Now, I'm pretty confident that this is inside that FOB, that forward operating base, that really, really big monolithic one, this guy. And the reason I say that is just because of how massively tall it is. And if you look here, the coloring matches, everything like that. And then if in the very back, there's a shot in this trailer where the weapon says, well, what if they're friendly? They're not, or whatever is what Master Chief says. That is actually the elevator in which he comes down. So there's a cutscene over here where you've already got the weapon that will play out. That's really cool. Now we can see already this is just built for gameplay. Things littered around the map. They got people in position ready to defend. But I just love the way that they've approached kind of these structures, the amount of detail, 3D geometry, and all of these beautiful reflections that they have, the glow of the red making it super ominous, these incredible pieces of clamping and stuff like that that give you a ton of detail. They've done a really good job of giving you a sense of place and scale, and I think that that's really what's taking this over the top. Now I'm gonna go ahead and let a lot of the trailer footage, some of my favorite moments from the trailer, play out for the rest of this video. I know it's been a little bit long-winded, but I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the Halo Infinite campaign overview trailer. I am utterly excited about this game. I hope you are too. Please let me know in the comments what your favorite part of this trailer was, what you're most looking forward to, and if there's any concerns you have about the game. Thank you again. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you like what we do, hit the bell for notifications, and as always, stay classy, coders.